was the logic behind the coming up with that periphery and the difference between the darker and lighter green.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if we go back to page 54 and all the changes that we made.
Page 54 of which document?
54 of the current final document.
Yes.
You may recall that we asked for a sentence to go in about where the Tongariro domain is and what it is, and it includes. And it's to go in before we start talking about the North Domain. It includes, the North Domain includes Riverside Park and the amphitheatre. Okay? I think we've got this fundamentally a little flawed in the map because it is drawn from the perspective of these words, which is fundamentally flawed as well. The amphitheatre is an events space created for events. Now, they mightn't be the hairy-legged variety, but if it's not an event space, could somebody define what the amphitheatre is?
Are you going to have a crack?
Yeah, I'll have a crack at it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank
The amphitheatre, and even so, Riverside Park was created, and that was created as an open space where people could walk through, have picnics. It's very much like any other open space, like the Lions Walk or stuff like that. Then the amphitheatre was created in there, and sure, there's little, or could be potential to be big events, but they are of the concert type at this stage. Where we're talking about events that link Tongariro Domain with a central business area to connect all that together, and that's why we've gone ahead and, as I said before, expanded that open area that still connects to the Great Lake, to the business area, and where now events have got a much more bigger area to operate on.
Councillor McKelvey, I'm not going to let this go on and on just because of two different shades of green, people.
Mr. Chairman,
There is a song about shades of colour, isn't there?
I'm not going to quote from the Reserve Management Plan of the Tongariro Domain, but the basis of my statement is in there, and I think we should be I'll just make this comment. I think we have to be very careful when we're doing structure planning for commercial and industrial advantage in a town, not to try and overrule reserve management planning intended for the reasons that the policies exist in those reserve management plans. And all I'm suggesting here is that perhaps we would be wise now to remove two of the keys on this map on page 20, on page 18. 19. And one of them is the dark green, and one of them is the so-called green slashed area, which, as I've said before, we left a lot of this up to the staff. It's our fault because we didn't give them clear direction at the time. I think it was probably the end of the day and we walked away from it. But that slash green at the second to bottom there, community and reserve oriented facilities, is just rubbish. Facilities, I don't know what that means here. I mean, there are no facilities over all of that land. There are two government departments, the Department of Courts and the police. They're not community facilities, they're government departments on government department designated land. They have a great community purpose, yes, but let's get this a little bit tighter. And certainly, and I'm going to use this, I don't mean to use this in a derogatory way of the police and the courthouse, because what would we do without them? But they are not reserve-oriented facilities. Definitely not reserve-oriented facilities. Usually, we've got them there and that's fine and they're there. But they're government departments. You usually don't find them in the middle of parks.
That's why it's got community at the front of it.
All right.
Community and reserve.
You've had enough talking. Councillor Heckling.
Well, it's the same area that I've just got a little bit of concern on. That's the community / reserves orientated facilities in that particular parcel of land. because I think we should show the true boundary of what's classed as the boat harbour, the blue area, because that is the landing reserve, and that boundary goes directly right across. You've got it right on one of the plans. I think we should show that quite clearly as being either landing reserve or boat harbour. I don't mind which, but it's under internal affairs. The little bunker area on the south side of the yacht club is reserve land, and that's in blue at the moment on this plan.
Just to be really clear, this is not a land ownership or a land management plan. This is a plan which is
I can only refer to the keys here, and it says boat harbour, and the bunker is not on boat harbour land. It's
not on landing reserve land.
Okay.
But it's sitting topographically down as part of that wider Taupo boat harbour area, as opposed to the as you move up the bank,
Which is boat harbour land, which is all boat harbour.
Well, not along Ferry Road.
No, but this piece here, this piece right across through there.
Page 57 has
that's all boat harbour.
Yes.
has the map.
Sorry, I thought we were talking about the bunker.
Well, the actual line is in between the existing yacht club and the bunker.
And I guess the point I was trying to make is that the bunker, while it might not be technically on landing reserve, is topographically located next to that, and actually forms part
right.
of that in terms of the sense of open space.
So within the centre of that etched area, there is a green, like as though the light green open space. You've got like a green slither.
Corridor through.
Yeah. Well,
Where to?
you know, what does that represent?
So that represents the linkage from the South
That was
Domain
on the original
through
plan, of course.
Yeah, and it was building on the idea that the third bowling green would enable that linkage of open space from the South Domain down through to the boat harbour.
What happened to our rose garden?
What? And the rose garden.
Certainly.
It's
It's part of the green, isn't it?
No.
No.
People, just coming back to that community reserve orientated facilities, someone said they were happy with the Taupo tennis courts as shown on the map, so I take it you're happy with that and the wording? You also got to remember that the Taupo Bowling Club is down there, and you can't tell me that you wouldn't be happy with the same pattern on the bowling club, because they're both sporting activities. You can't distinguish between either. You know, we've taken 25 minutes on this colour, and we ain't taken another 25 minutes. Councillor McKelvey.
Yeah, well, I've suggested, Mr. Chairman, that we remove that community and reserve-oriented facilities from the whole plan, because otherwise you've got to put in the senior sits, you've got to put in the women's club, etc., and there are areas between these. You've got the museum, etc. Just take it out. Just take it out.
And what colour would you be happy with if we...
I wouldn't put anything in there at all, because what I would suggest is what we need two maps, and this is going to be my suggestion to overcome the problem. We need a map that shows the zones, or what we call environments in the district plan, and we need the same map to show land ownership along the river, which will show the Tongariro domain as distinct from the landing reserve. And on the western side of the river, there is just no logic whatsoever in having half of the Nukahau Reserve green, some of it white, and Pier 87, which is managed in an integrated way with the reserve land, coloured blue. It's just crazy stuff. It doesn't reflect the reserve management that we have at the moment, and it doesn't necessarily reflect what's intended in the future either. Because
Staff, you're looking very, very worried.
Well,
when you look like that, Mr. Carroll, I'm getting very, very worried as well.
Just working backwards, in terms of the western side of the river. The area shown in green, which has currently got boats parked all over it and boats going backwards and forwards up and down the ramp. Completely agree that that area probably is a lot more appropriate sitting in the blue shading.
Yes.
The balance of the green areas on that side of the river, I'm assuming you're
Open space.
quite happy for them to stay as green open space?
Yes.
Well, are we? Don't know about Councillor McKelvey's happy with it. Are we all happy with it?
Yeah.
All right, move on.
Coming back to creating two maps, one with a land ownership pattern and one with a zoning pattern, I'm struggling a little bit to see what the benefit of that is.
It's very simple. One of the pages talks quite a lot about council working in partnership with the owners of the landing reserve in order to encourage the collaborative development of the Taupo Boat Harbour, which is a very untapped reserve commercially and in terms of economic potential for the visitor industry. So the average person in Taupo hasn't a clue where the landing reserve is and that somebody else manages it. They just think council does, and why is it like this? So somewhere in this we've got to have, and I think it's important also to show in terms of other management plans, as well as showing your environments under the district plan, I think it's only fair that you show your two important reserve management plans. I'm sure when we get to Turangi they'll be shown, where you've got reserve management plans down there.
Well, we might be simpler because we won't use as many colours.
Could I suggest two ways forward?
It might be just black and bloody white, because we're not getting too far here today.
Could I suggest two ways forward? That on this map we identify the landing reserve boundary line and we shade it as such, and that perhaps when we have the Taupo Boat Harbour section on page 62, on the opposite page we have a more detailed map of that area which actually shows the land ownership and management. Just clarifying it so it's crystal clear.
You're not going to take away our lovely photo.
Hang on.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's really important because this plan does refer to the other side of the river. Part of the other side of the river is privately owned. Part of it is council owned and reserve managed.
Right, I'm happy with that, but
Thank you.
What happens to this map? Same colour?
Well, we correct it to fix up that Taupo Boat Harbour boundary and the Tongariro domain boundary. That's easy enough to fix on this map. Yep. We have the separate map with the Taupo Boat Harbour section showing that. Yep. We fix up that green over there.
What would you like us to do with the police station, courthouse, senior citizens hall?
I think you need to.
Well, police wear blue and courthouse wear any colour.
But what do you show it as? It's not open space.
I think you should know. I think you should just say police and courts. Police and courts. Or just, why don't you do, you know how you've got these little sort of pictures, little blocks as you have, just have the little blocks and they're already there and leave it green.
But in terms of its development pattern of what we're trying to show in the town centre, what is that land if it's not community facilities? What are the police? What is the court?
Police and justice, or police and courts. Just have it
in terms
there.
of the notation for the purposes of what this map's trying to achieve.
I just put
Community
the words
services,
police,
government services.
courts.
So leave it white, no colour.
Council,
Yes,
down
because
it.
it's special.
Thank you.
I know you're getting frustrated, Mr. Chairman, and that you want to move on.
Man.
To me, this is a very simple plan. I can read in it. I know where the boat harbour is and who actually owns that. The green space, even over there, shows me that it's council-owned land. And just everything on this is simple. I think it's great. Simple as that.
You always do.
Thank you, Councillor Vargan.
That's all right.
Keep your comments to yourself.
I certainly will.
Councillor McKelvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can I suggest that if you're going to have community and reserve-oriented facilities, you've got to show them all. And you've only shown them in certain places. The South Domain is this great big gap, and we've got community facilities on that, and that's why I'm saying just take that out. And if you've got buildings, Mr. Chairman, can I finish,
yes, go
please?
ahead.
If you've got specific sizable buildings, and thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome, ma'am.
if you've got substantial buildings, then name them. But I don't